hello, and welcome to the PC Gaming Weekspot, your recap of the last 7 days in PC video gaming. My name is Colin Mahern, and joining me this week, the caped crusader to my superb man, it is the one, the only, it is Mr. Matthew Castle.
Hello.
I said because I think that might be the first time that I totally forgot about that bit. And the first thing that came to my head was the Justice League, which I don't know. Did you see it? Did you watch Zack Snyder's?
# lock the Snyder Cut back up. That's what I say.
So I've heard it's not great. And also, I mean, any film that is, what is it, 4.5 hours?
4 hours.
No, I'm sorry. I don't care who you are. If your film is 4 hours, make it a mini-series. Like,
the really weird thing is it's 4 hours, but watching it, like, I couldn't quite put my finger on how it was different from the 2-hour version. Like, all the big story beats that kind of had to happen for the story to work were in the original Justice League. And you'd think that 2 hours extra content would really feel like, wow, look at all this. But it actually, like, blended in. So, like, I know you're not really allowed to say this, because if you ever mention anything negative about the Snyder Cut, like, it's basically like putting up the bat signal for dweebs on Twitter, and they come and, like, kick your ass, because apparently this is the greatest film since Citizen Kane. It's not. I actually thought it was more coherent than the original film, but I have no idea what they gained from the extra 2 hours. It's still in. Did you see the original?
I haven't seen. I haven't seen the original. I haven't seen this. I just don't. I don't know. I don't have much of an interest in the DC stuff. I like every. The best thing I've been told about all those films is they're like one or two of them are okay, but like Wonder Woman, to be fair, is meant to be good.
The thing which is good about the DC films, like, regardless of quality, and I'm pretty sure I've said this on the Weekspot before, is that, like, they clearly are the work of, like, individual directors. Like, they feel more singular than the Marvel films, which is just a big mass of, like, you know, if the Marvel films are a big TV show, the DC films film like films, not necessarily good films, but they have, like, unique visual styles. And because of that, some of the standalone ones have been okay. Like, Wonder Woman's fine. I actually quite like Aquaman because it's like a big, like, really over the top, like, Flash Gordon, like, high camp.
Okay.
You know, Willem Dafoe riding a stingray kind of deal. It's mad. Like, it's probably only a 3-star film, but it's got character.
Whereas the Snyder Cut doesn't.
It's fine. It's if you like the Snyder thing, which is just that everything's very gloomy and sort of somber, and, you know, it takes itself so seriously. Weirdly, there was stuff in the original cut, which I assumed was the stuff that Joss Whedon had added, like some of the sillier bits, but they were in the Snyder cut, so they must have been in the original design. Like, some of the jokes, there's some stuff which, you know, you play spot the difference between the two films, and you're like, oh, that had to have been a Joss Whedon line, and actually it's not. It was in the original. So it's quite interesting exercise in that regard.
And were these things that people criticized Joss Whedon for?
Not particularly. I don't really think the criticism of this film of the original film went particularly deep, because it's largely rubbish. You just sort of went there. But there's a really, really good bit where, like, the Flash kind of goes up against Superman and realizes that Superman is as fast as him, and he's never had to experience that before. And it's genuinely, like, a really, really good moment. Only like 10 seconds long. But it's, like, a really fun little idea that feels like it came from a different film, but actually it didn't. It was a Snyder original.
So there's your Snyder Cut review. There's a good 10 seconds in it.
Game reviews.
Yeah, we've got it all. But yes, we normally talk about games. So before we get into the bigger news stories of the week, Matthew, I'm going to ask you to grab that crank of yours and open that news gob, because I have some information snacks for you.
Info snacks for his gob.
Matthew, you'll be delighted to hear that Dying Light 2 is still going to launch in 2021. Hooray. Techland mentioned this in an update video that they put together last week. That was the majority of the video was them like reading, I think it was, if I'm remembering correctly, reading tweets from people and whatever else, talking about the games in development hell, and then they were like, oh, it's not, it's coming out this year. We'll see, I suppose, because this comes after the big report about the toxic work culture, and yeah, as I say, the game being in development hell. I don't know. It's in my head that you are a Dying Light fan. I don't know why though. Am I wrong?
No, I think Dying Light 1 is like surprisingly good, considering it came from the makers of Dead Island, which I hate with a passion. Dying Light's good like parkour-y moves, fun sort of RPG elements to it. Yeah, it's a solid little game. Dying Light 2 looks amazing in the demos when they showed it to us at Gamescom like 3 years ago. I get the idea that maybe it doesn't exist outside of those demos, or didn't exist outside of those demos at that point, which is maybe, what these delays would suggest. Mm-hmm. But it looked amazing, and the kind of chases across the city and what they were doing, the parkour looked really fun. I was definitely excited for this one. I still have hopes it's going to be good, even though it is the outcome of stressful, bad work environment.
Another game that is coming out, but not this year, is Payday 3, because late on Friday, Starbreeze dropped an announcement. They gave us a release window, finally, for this game that was announced in 2016. Payday 3 is coming in 2023. And I enjoyed this because I don't know, when you expect a release window, when you see a headline or whatever, it's like they announced release window, you're like, oh, is it what, between Q3, Q4? No, 2023. So
I thought they'd been largely like mullered by that Walking Dead game they made. I thought that had basically put them out of action, because that was like an instant flop, and like they've had a bit of a nightmare time with it. Did you play much Payday 2?
Not loads. To be honest, yeah, it's not. I appreciated it from afar. I don't know. It's not for me really. I don't know. Did you dabble?
Like a little bit. I always felt it was a game that there was like a lot more going on than I could ever really comprehend. Like the idea that you go in stealthy. I have no idea how stealth really works in that game.
Because,
right. You go in, you shoot a gun, like everyone in the level's alerted. Like every time I've played it, it ended in a massive shootout with the police. But there'd always be like one pro player who was trying to do some sort of sneaky stuff and then would get really cross with everyone else. Feels like it's a game where you probably have to learn to play it with some friends rather than strangers. But
probably, yeah. Like there is a lot of communication and how to kind of perform
it
the mission.
It doesn't explain itself amazingly well how it all works, but.
Another thing.
Fingers crossed that in 2023.
Yes. Another thing you'll be able to do with friends, as well as play Payday 3 and a little bit sooner, is go to Gamescom. Because, whether ill-advised or not, Gamescom is going to be happening this year, both as a digital and a physical event. The physical side of things will consist of, quote, an entertainment area especially designed for a reduced amount of on-site visitors, and that's according to their press release. So I don't know, maybe there'll be like these sort of social distance pods or something.
I felt uncomfortable at Gamescom when there wasn't a plague. I mean, the idea of that plus plague, I mean, the people who've not been to Gamescom, it is incredibly crowded. I mean, that's like its whole deal.
It's the largest in the world, isn't it? It's like in terms of numbers.
Stand in that central corridor and literally not move because you're so packed. You're just like a sea of flesh that's locked in place. That is Gamescom. I mean, you'd have to remove, I'd say 95% of the people who went to Gamescom for it to be socially distanced. Surely the appeal of that doesn't make any sense.
Maybe they will. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
There's so many times at Gamescom where I've been booked in to see games, and then they've booked us in, to go and see them in the public area, and you just look at that central corridor and you're like, you know what? We're just not going to cover, Mafia 3 in official Xbox magazine, because I ain't going through that. No game is worth dealing with that.
So that's something to look forward to for you in August. Another thing you can look forward to is more Tiger Woods games. Well, maybe Tiger Woods branded, I don't know. But 2K have partnered with Tiger. He is going to act as the executive director and consultant to HB Studios, who are the developer of previously the Golf Club, and then after 2K bought them, PGA Tour 2K 2021. This is the first time, if they do go down the route of just Tiger Woods 2K 2022, it would be the first time since 2015 that his name would appear on a video game box, because that's when EA made the shift from Tiger to Rory McIlroy, which was the timing.
It's not as sexy.
No, it's not. But like, see the timing. Am I getting the timing right now? I'm just trying to remember. It would have been after Tiger's controversy, the first one, I think, because it wouldn't have been after he was pulled over in the car. Or was it? I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. But Tiger is I suppose he is a comeback story of sorts. He's come back twice, and if he comes back again, it will have to be a third time. And I think the world has turned on Tiger after initially kind of criticizing him for his infidelity. But I don't know. We'll see. I love the old Tiger Woods games. I think they were absolutely
I was just going to say,
I
don't think I've ever met anyone who was like enough into golf games that I have any feel for, what is considered the best golf game. Like in my head, the only one I ever hear anyone getting excited about is the kind of the arcadey PlayStation one.
Everybody's Golf.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But I know that's like the Mario Kart of golf games.
I mean, there is a Mario Golf also. There's a new Mario Golf coming too.
But they're never very good, the Mario Golf games. Not since the N64. But anyway, we're getting outside of our PC remit.
We are, yeah, back.
Imagine just the idea of a game box with Rory McIlroy on it is kind of hilarious. I know he's good at golf, but he's not like. Yes! I'm so excited. What's that joke in The Simpsons with the really boring golf game?
The putting challenge.
It's like that. It's like, imagine tearing the paper off your Christmas present and the face that's staring out is Rory McIlroy, and you're like, oh, okay. I don't know. Maybe that's unfair. There used to be those old snooker games with like Jimmy White.
Jimmy White, yeah. Jimmy White's Whirlwind Snooker. Classics. And finally, Xbox Game Pass for PC just got a whole lot better as EA Play was bundled in with the service last week. It has been part of Game Pass on consoles since November and was meant to be coming to PC in November last November as well, but then it just got delayed. But now PC players can play classic games such as Mass Effect, Dead Space, and The Saboteur. So that is good, making Xbox Game Pass for PC even better. Matthew, have you had a look at the EA titles on offer? Will this make you?
I haven't yet. I know I've looked at their library when I've had access to it on other platforms and things, and it's a little, it's sort of fine. But the problem with a lot of EA games is they kind of because they're so big on the yearly iterations and they kind of replace their games with newer games. The idea, a lot of them feel slightly defunct now. But, a bit of Mass Effect, or, having all the Mass Effects or whatever, that's
all right.
Sniff at that.
That's all right. So those are your information snacks for the week. So now it is time to talk about the bigger news stories in headlines and hot takes. Yes, headlines and hot takes is the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot where we take you through the bigger news stories of the past week, and we sort of speculated on Square Enix's Nintendo Direct style Square Enix Presents showcase last week. What would they show? And it was was okay. They didn't really blow anyone away with what they showed. In particular, I'll be interested to get your thoughts on the Tomb Raider stuff. But before we talk about that, let us discuss, Matthew, your true colours shining through in Life is Strange, True Colours. This is the next game in the series. It was, it kind of, I suppose, headlined the whole thing. It was sort of the biggest announcement from it. In this, there is a new protagonist, again, which is their want, really, to kind of totally do a new protagonist. There's this young woman called Alex Chen, and her superpower is that she is able to, as if you're watching this, maybe you'll be able to see from the footage, she can sense other people's emotions and why they are feeling these emotions. And she's also able to change what they're feeling and take on what they're feeling as well, I believe. And when, I don't know, she takes in too much of their emotions, and I believe this is a quote from Square, she loses control. So I don't know. We'll see what that's about. This one is being developed by Deck 9, who did Before the Storm. And it's out on the 10th of September. Oh, and this one is, they're just releasing it in one big chunk, which is different to actually all the three other Life is Strange games, which were all episodic. So kind of going that Hitman route where they're just going, we were episodic, but here, just have the lot. Matthew, I know you're not the biggest, well, it's not that I suppose you hate Life is Strange or anything, but I just don't, it's one that you haven't really played, isn't it?
I've played Series 1, but I haven't played beyond that.
I don't know, any thoughts on this woman's kind of powers or the story?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's one of these things you've got to kind of play to see, because, that I think the last Don't Nod game that I played was Tell Me Why.
This is Deck 9 now. This is this isn't Don't Nod. This isn't developed. This is developed.
Yeah,
by
I know, but in terms of I was gonna say, this visually it reminded me a lot of it. Like it seems to have a very sort of similar vibe. And it's this sort of the problem I had with that game. I know it's a different studio, but I think it's genre adjacent. Is that the kind of powers and stuff, they didn't really manifest themselves that often. It felt like quite arbitrary. They weren't really at the heart of the game. What was good about Life is Strange 1 was there was quite a lot of the time stuff. It felt like quite a fun thing to work with. And I'm just kind of curious. The thing you don't know until you play the game is that balance. Is it like a couple of key set pieces, or is it a power that you can use more regularly throughout? That's something I'm kind of intrigued to see. Because on paper it's fine. It's kind of interesting. It's got some morally grey sort of potential to it in terms of changing people and sort of altering them without them sort of knowing what that means.
I mean, I definitely. Now, to be fair, I don't know. Was the trailer that they showed off? Was it captured in game? Was it? But if it was, it's certainly the nicest looking Life is Strange game. I thought they've always been. They did get better as time went on, but there was always this kind of weird, the screen was smeared in sort of mud or something. It just looked a little bit.
Yeah, I thought that kind of worked in the original. It had a sense of it wasn't a hardware limitation. It was a specific artistic decision to do it that way. It had this sort of slightly nostalgic kind of glow to it. It's almost like a sort of a slightly hazy remembrance. It's kind of sort of made physical. This looks, it's fine.
Yeah. It like a lot of Life is Strange, it'll probably be fine.
Weirdly, I find that more photorealistic, and this isn't fully photorealistic, but the more photorealistic you get, the more the bigger the potential for mishaps. I guess that's obvious with the whole kind of uncanny valley thing. But in terms of when you've got a simpler character models or whatever, you can kind of convey emotions a bit more broadly and maybe a bit more effectively as you can in animation, where that stuff can stumble. Like it's more obvious when it's not quite right in this sort of style. So, we'll see. And it lives and died by the writing, of course. So, that we don't know. I am interested to see like what, somewhere at Square Enix or one of these studios, there must be a document which is like, this is the Bible of like what makes this specifically Life is Strange. And obviously, a supernatural power, young adults is a two key thing. But I am interested in what does and doesn't count.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, really. Like some sort of supernatural power and coming of age kind of story. Although the woman in this does look like slightly older than any of the other kind of featured characters in Life is Strange. So, not loads, but
I think one of the strengths of Life is Strange 1 is that the school setting felt a bit more universal. And even though everyone jokes about all the naff teenage slang, all that shit, it felt a bit more. I think it was quite a universal thing. I think even if you're a bit older and from a different, you could see elements of it. There are some tropes which are pretty universal with these things. I must admit, this particular world has less of that. Feels like it's. I don't see I don't see myself in any of that particularly.
No,
I don't think this is necessarily aimed at me.
Is
not that it has to be.
Yeah, exactly. But Matthew, is what was previously known as Project Athia now known as Forspoken? A silly name for a silly video game. But is this silly video game for you, Matthew? Are you on board with? As I say, what was first called Project Athia was announced during Sony's big PS5 showcase thingy they did last year. It's this, Square describes this game as, quote, an ordinary young woman, or describes the main character, I should say, as an ordinary young woman who must harness her magical abilities to survive in a beautiful yet cruel world. It's all dragons and fantasy and stuff, Matthew. It's meant to be out in 2022. Have you any strong emotions about Forspoken?
I'm always interested in the kind of first party Square kind of Square sort of high production values of RPGs, action RPGs. From a pure kind of production values role, there's some always very shiny games. Like ever since I was a kid, I've associated, I guess more the Final Fantasy with like, this is what, they're often cutting edge of graphics or whatever. And this certainly looks very shiny. I get big Final Fantasy 15 vibes from it. Albeit, it's even shinier than that. It's the next step on. Interested to see kind of how open worldy it is, and because the speed of movement and everything's kind of that looks a bit more sort of arcadey and zippy, which isn't something I necessarily associate with exploration. I'll be interested. It might be odd to have a huge world where you're just tearing around at it like 100 miles an hour on foot constantly, but certainly very shiny. This actress, she's a Charlie's Angel, isn't she?
Is she?
She was in the Charlie's Angels films, I think. The new one.
Oh, right. Because I was going to say Cameron Diaz, Lucy Liu, and Drew Barrymore. She's neither of those. She's none of those people.
I think she's one of the new Charlie's Angels.
I forgot they rebooted that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it meant to be good, or I haven't heard.
It's awful.
Yeah. Maybe she'll get find success with this. Who knows? I've no real strong emotions about this game apart from the fact that the name is stupid. But that's
is
not
it?
Forspoken. I don't know. I don't like it. Matthew. Just
chucking herself around there. That's all right.
It does. Yeah. No,
that looks fun. Flinging yourself across a huge canyon. I'm into that.
Do you know what isn't terribly fun? Is the fact that we're not getting a new Tomb Raider game, Matthew, or at least it wasn't. We might be, but that information wasn't made public during the Square Enix Presents, because instead they said, yeah, do you want a new game, or do you want this Tomb Raider Definitive Survivor trilogy, which is the reboot trilogy, in one package? They did a few other bits and pieces to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Tomb Raider. They spoke about Lara popping up, or was it just a costume or whatever, popping up in Fortnite. There was something about Ghost Recon, I believe, and just other bits like that. I know last week we spoke about this and you were thinking that it can't be just them putting the 3 games into one package. Yeah, it is. That's it, Matthew. That's what you're getting.
Yeah, I mean, I did see, I saw the Crystal Dynamics, or the Tomb Raider kind of community manager person, saying that, obviously people have been like, boo, on Twitter, like, boo, this is all we're getting. And she's like, it's only the beginning of the year. Like, there's probably more to come. I don't think there is like a game to come. I think they'd probably be shouting about that a bit more early on, but, I'm glad that they're like still interested. My worry always was with Tomb Raider that, like, because they spent all this money on the reboot trilogy, and it felt like it was never a trilogy that did, like, it did really well, but didn't do quite as well as it maybe needed to, considering how much they pumped into it. I was worried that Tomb Raider was a bit of a sort of dead thing. Mm-hmm. They have, form with this. There's plenty of series they've got. I mean, mainly Deus Ex and Thief, which have both been kind of slightly nobbled in a similar way. So my worry was going to go the way of that. So that they're still talking about it. And it is fundamentally, a video gamey thing. It's just a bit, I don't know. Here's 3 games you already, like, if you're into Tomb Raider enough to be excited about the 25th anniversary of Lara Croft, you definitely own these 3 games already. And you probably own all the DLC. So the idea that you're like, oh yeah, I'll definitely buy, like, who's that for?
Yeah, they did do a thing, all right, I think on the day where they were giving away the 2 Lara Croft, what was it? Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris, and Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light. Is that right? Yeah. So like, they were doing something on Twitter or something where you have to like reply and follow and whatever else, and we'll give you the games for free. So like, yes, this is probably, it's March. There are many months to go, but like, yeah, if they're going to be releasing Tomb Raider 4 or whatever it is, I feel like in this year, then I feel like they'd have that would be announced already. So I don't know. Maybe we'll get more of those. The Tomb Raider or Lara Croft and the Temple of Blank or something. I thought those, or at least the first one. I remember playing a decent chunk of the first one. I thought was good.
They were both good.
And kind of aside from that, we got a little bit of Marvel's Avengers stuff because, well, I actually sort of admire their gumption and their kind of want to really make Marvel's Avengers work. They're still supporting that. They talked about the roadmap. They talked about Black Panther DLC that's being added to it. And they showed off some Hawkeye gameplay as well. And everything else aside from that was sort of something that was mentioned already, like Game of the Year for 2021 Outriders, or something that looks a bit shite like Balan Wonderworld, or something that looks shite and also isn't on PC like Just Cause Mobile. So like, it's, I mean, overall, Matthew, not the most exciting and invigorating show, I would say. It was short, which is good, 40 minutes. Good stuff. But yeah,
I guess you're just trying to stay like relevant and in people's thoughts. I find with a lot of these little digital things where they're announced like a week before, if it's not good, you're like, oh well, it's not like an E3 conference bombing where you've been waiting for it for months. But people talk about it like, oh god, they really stabbed us in the back or whatever, and you're like, no, not really. I mean, like, this thing didn't exist like seconds ago and now it does. Like, if you can get hyped in that time, you're an idiot. And so, whatever. Here's some trailers. It's given us something to talk about on Weekspot that
Thankfully,
isn't a graphics card, so that's
good. So like, yeah.
But that
So yeah. I mean that is a fair point. That it's given us just something to talk about because a relatively quiet week, Matthew. Not an awful lot happening really. One thing that I did want to talk about, and more kind of within a wider context, is a video game. I know you've mentioned a couple of times. Not that you're champing at the bit to play it, but I think that there is interest there. Is Gotham Knights? Well, I do apologize personally. You're not going to get to play it this year, Matthew, because I know Warner Brothers have announced that they've delayed it. This, of course, is the Batman game. Well, there are 2 Batman games coming, and I don't think either of them have Batman in it. But yeah, this is the one where Batman is dead, and it's
the Dead Batman trilogy.
It stars Batgirl, Nightwing, Red Hood, and Robin, and it's this co-op-y. I suppose nobody really knows yet what it is, whether it's more Destiny-like or more Borderlands or Assassin's Creed or whatever it is. But yeah, this is from Warner Brothers Games Montreal, who also did Batman Arkham Origins. And but yeah, we don't really know if this is going to have an impact on Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, but like that game is meant to be coming out next year, and they're hardly going to be releasing 2 Batman games at the same time, are they? If Gotham Knights is now going to be coming out next year as well, that feels like Batman overkill. So I don't know, we'll see. But they announced the delay on Twitter. They said, we are giving the game more time to deliver the best possible experience for players. We look forward to showcasing more of the game in the coming months. Now, I'll get onto the kind of wider impact of this in a bit. But yeah, do you think that this would have a knock-on effect on Suicide Squad?
I mean, Suicide Squad is like, they've kept it helpfully vague. You know, they've done a cinematic teaser trailer for. They haven't really shown anything or said anything about the game. Like it you know, they treated that like it's far off. I don't think anyone would be too upset if that came out whenever. Really, you know, there's no sort of expectations. Yeah, I suppose this one felt like the way they were talking about it and what they showed off it looked pretty polished, pretty fancy. And I know that's the nature of these demos, that you polish up a vertical slice or whatever, so you can't really take that as anything. But yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, last year when all the lockdown happened, there were a lot of people. I remember Phil Spencer saying, like, you know, this won't affect games we had planned for this year, but the knock-on effect will be felt next year. Because obviously, you know, obviously as a lot of the stuff that came out last year was already kind of pretty much finished when lockdown kicked in, and you're just in that final stage, which is obviously something they've been able to do with their new, you know, work from home arrangements. But yeah, maybe everyone was putting a bit of a brave face on it, and it is just a lot harder, a lot more disruptive than they, you know, let on.
To be fair,
I also wonder if like AAA's got a little bit of fear because of like Cyberpunk. Like, no, like the appetites have changed so much. I mean, that was a pretty extreme case in terms of like something being released in a problematic state. You know, I don't ever see, I'd struggle to see any version of any timeline where, you know, Warner Brothers released a game in the state that game was in, if that makes sense. Like, I just don't, you know, I think they have a baseline for quality that, you know, other studios shouldn't wig out, because I think most people have proven things to be of like a decent enough quality when they come out. I mean, that was a pretty rare case, but, you know, maybe that's put the scarers on people. Like, you know, people aren't going to take, you know, aren't going to be as forgiving, or it's going to kick off, you know, to the point where you're removed from the store. You know, and Cyberpunk is still removed from PlayStation. You still can't buy it.
Jesus.
Like, I mean, you got to remember, like, that's the kind of extreme we're dealing with here.
Yeah,
but maybe that factors into it. Like, let's just, you know, cross the T's and dot the I's and the lowercase J's.
Like, it is, or they themselves I believe, didn't actually mention COVID. Like, but yeah, like you say, like there is with all things, like with all media and all entertainment media, like coronavirus has had an impact on shooting schedules for TV shows and films. It's obviously going to have an impact on games development. But like you say, anything that was maybe not so much towards the tail end of last year, but like I and this is pure speculation, but the bulk of last year, yeah, it would have been like finishing touches, etc., etc. Whereas perhaps Gotham Knights, you know, and even more so Suicide Squad, like those are games that are in this scenario that we find ourselves in, are going to be a little bit tougher to develop. Which is why, Matthew, I wanted to play a little game with you called, hold on, where did I put it? Ah, yes. COVID delay, or Cove, I don't think this game will be delayed.
It's a good name.
Thank you very much. I spent 7 hours on it. So I have a list of games.
I was hoping there was going to be a sting for that.
Maybe there will be in post, maybe there won't, depending on time.
Gabe Newell's face. COVID delay. COVID, I don't think this game will be delayed.
Why does he sound like E.T.?
Well, that's Mystery Steam Review. Yeah.
So I have games that at some point somebody has said these games are coming out in 2021. Be it like it's on their Steam page, or be it somebody on the development team, whatever. Some of them may be easy, some of them a little bit more difficult. There's like, yeah, I have a couple of games here. So I'm not going to be throwing any Elden Ring at you because nobody has said 2021 for Elden Ring, basically. So we'll start off pretty easy, Matthew, with games that are coming out quite soon in, say, a Resident Evil 8.
COVID, I don't think this game will be... Cove, I don't think this game will be delayed.
Yeah, look, I'll throw them out quicker. Deathloop and Biomutant. So here are like your May slate of games. Do you think Deathloop is all right and no. Biomutant?
I think they're both fine.
Then you have Back 4 Blood in June.
That'll still come out this year,
but maybe not June.
Maybe not June.
Here's a little doozy for you. We're getting a little bit trickier here.
I'm not basing this on anything, but I'm totally pulling this out of my ass. Like, don't think I've got some kind of inside line here. I'm not some Jason Schreier scoop machine.
So in August, it's meant to be coming out. New World. Amazon's New World. Just Cove, I don't think this game will ever see the light of day.
No, I think COVID delay. I think they've said that there was still more work to be done on it. That was the last thing I played before I left RPS full time. And it was. But I don't know. Can sometimes, I guess MMOs sometimes get released in a slightly,
lesser state.
Here's where the game's currently at, and then you kind of stick with it. But
maybe, yeah.
We'll see.
And this isn't properly confirmed for October. It was in some sort of PlayStation showcasey thing they did, and somebody spotted it right at the end. But yeah, it hasn't been confirmed yet. But Ghostwire Tokyo, that's meant to be out in October. What do you think of that? Delay or no delay?
I think that's... I thought they'd already said this year that had been delayed to October.
If it did, I don't remember that happening, but okay.
Maybe I think Cove, I don't think that game will be delayed.
Fingers crossed. And then I have some just 2021 games. So if these are delayed, they're into next year. Start you off big, Matthew. Halo Infinite.
No, this year. Has to be.
Ooh.
Has to be.
Far Cry 6.
Tricky, because that was meant to be like early 2021, and then they just put the old...
Yeah.
I don't really see what else Ubisoft have. I think Ubisoft have to release something, and I imagine that's it.
Psychonauts 2.
Yeah, I think that'll be this year.
Here's one that's been kind of... I feel like it was the Biomutant of its day, or it's been there with Biomutant for a couple of years. Sable. Does Sable finally get released in 2021? Do you remember Sable?
Yeah, hard to tell with like indie things because they show you a quite context-free slice of like that looks sort of quite far along. You're flying around the world, but you don't know if that's what they've got, and then they're still building structure. I think this is probably going to still be a bit off.
Okay. Rainbow Six Quarantine / Parasite / whatever they end up calling it.
2022 on grounds of taste.
Agreed. Yeah. And 6 Days in Fallujah. Do you think 6 Days in Fallujah sees the light of day this year, COVID or not?
Nah, I mean, who cares really?
Yeah. I think they'd probably be better off just shit can it again. But what's that coming up, Matthew? Oh, dearie me, it is a right angle. It is time for Tech Corner. Hooray.
Oh, fantastic.
So GeForce Now has doubled in price. The cloud streaming service, it was a £5 a month or something. Now it's £9. So not exactly £10 or not exactly double in price, but sure. But
I love
Matthew,
the level of news analysis you get from the Weekspot. It's £9, not quite £10.
But Matthew, what I want to know is, have you continued to pay for something when the price went up? What's the best thing that you've continued to pay for when it became more expensive? That isn't Netflix.
Oh, you see, most of like the... Like when I guess to cheat, like pre-Netflix, the DVD rental services, like your Love Film, that got bumped up at one point, and I stuck with that because I was really on top of DVD rent. Like I was basically your nightmare customer because I was really I was really efficient at watching them, returning them, so I'd get like about as many discs as you could, humanly get in, I'd even go to like around town to make sure I got the right post box that I would make sure it'd get back on time. So I knew where if it was 3 o'clock, it needed to be that post box. If it was 5, I'd go to the train station or whatever. So I was really, really on top of it. So when they put the money up on that, you were like, well, fair enough. Like I'm probably watching like 30 quid's worth of movies every month for like a £5. So if that goes up, that's fine. So probably that. Yeah. I mean, it's not a very sexy answer.
It's not a very sexy question, Matthew. So, because the only thing you can say is like subscription services like Netflix, Spotify, whatever. So, Love Film
not quite
is
the same thing. It's not quite the same thing, but like when you keep using a particular, like anything these days, because it's more expensive than it was like 10 years ago, and you remember like, take Subway, for example. If you remember the era where Subway, you'd get like a footlong and a drink for like a £5, and now that's just not a thing anymore.
It's a fantasy.
But I'll still get a footlong and a drink. I'll still.
Of course, you're a man of taste. You're not gonna 6 inches. Fuck off. Oh. No way. No way. I want a 12-inch
I don't want
sandwich,
someone else's
please.
leftover 6 inches. That's the thing.
I want my own 12. Thank you very much.
I want the full 12. I'm a big man.
You're a growing boy. So those are your news stories for the week. So now it's time to talk about the games we've been playing in Show and Tell.
Show and tell. Show and tell. We can't afford a proper jingle. It's meant to be jingle.
Yes, Show and Tell is part of the PC Gaming Weekspot, where we tell you about the video games that we have been playing in the past week. And I think we probably mentioned this a couple of times. March, not terrific for some big releases, but, it's allowed us this week, both of us, to play some video games that we may have missed over the last few weeks or so that are a little bit smaller. More indie games. One game that I played and it got some bit of buzz was Everhood. People have described this one as a sort of a mix between Undertale and Guitar Hero. And I was like, I like that mixture. Let's have a look at this. So the Undertale portion of that description is pretty on the money. Like, the art style is very reminiscent of Undertale, which was obviously inspired by old JRPGs and all that. And like Undertale, it also isn't your stereotypical traditional JRPG. It's very Undertale, basically. You travel around this pixelated world, chatting to a cast of odd characters. These characters will likely say something kooky, and then that's your cue to laugh or whatever you want.
That's basically the weak spot in a nutshell.
I didn't do a load of ha-has while playing Everhood.
That's also the weak spot in a nutshell.
It felt very... I don't particularly get on with this type of humour. Some people do, so, more luck to you. But it felt... it's so random. And I was like, fine.
Is it a bit Mighty Boosh?
A little in the part I played. That's not a bad shout. But I know some people just like, if you could fight a duck-sized whatever fucking bollocks. I think that was one of my questions.
Is it Mimi?
No, I don't. Well, I guess so. I haven't played the whole thing. I don't know if it gets memey, but I
don't like meme. I don't like meme jokes.
It was just a bit lol rando.
Yeah.
In my head, Undertale became really popular and then created memes rather than aping them and presenting them as funny. This one, I don't know. Maybe it gets memey as the game goes on, but I didn't find loads of meminess. But anyway, I suppose the game I'm talking about, Everhood, you're playing as this character that's a wooden doll person thing, and you're trying to retrieve your arm from a character called, of course, Golden Pig, who is a pig. Every character isn't very annoying. I will say that. Like, they're not all dickheads. And some play with expectations in interesting-ish ways. But it's just, I don't know, just for the most part, it's just not terribly inspiring, and it's vague. It's vague to the point where I just lost interest. And it's a little bit too cutesy for its own good. Now, the Guitar Hero comparison is very odd. I mean, if you're watching the Weekspot, you're seeing the footage, you're going, like, it's a bit mad. So battles take place on these note highway likes, essentially, where you're at the bottom of the screen, the enemy's at the top, and they'll shoot these glowing, colourful hurdles at you. It's really simple. You must avoid these by strafing left or right and into one of there are 5 lanes at the bottom, down where you are. Or you can jump over them as well. And later on in the game, you'll get an ability where you're able to like fire these back at your enemy. But my issue with this is that, like, seeing people compare it to Guitar Hero, it's not totally right, because Guitar Hero in Guitar Hero, you're playing in time with the music. Here, the enemy is doing that, but you're not. So, like, you're not avoiding things on the beat. They're attacking you on the beat, and that muddles the whole fucking thing up. Like, it isn't a rhythm action game. You're not interacting with these battles in time with the music. And at the start, that is incredibly confusing. And
it's hard as balls.
Oh my God, Matthew. It is so difficult. But it's so difficult again because, like, your inputs aren't matching up with the beat, and it just feels really off. Like, but if you make a mistake, you're sort of cooked, really. The game recommends you play it on hard difficulty, but no thank you. I was flipping between normal and easy. Like, it's unbelievably hard. Because even I suppose I should mention, like, like the volume of attacks, the amount of these hurdles that are being thrown at you, it's quite bullet helly, really, I suppose. And you know what? It's a bit samey as well. Like, a lot of the enemies, again, I didn't play the whole thing, but a lot of the enemies I came across just had the same kind of Note Highway type thing. Now, some of them do play a little bit with the setup, so like they'll flip the screen around, so the enemies at the bottom, you're on top, and then, like, you know, your left becomes right, your right becomes left, and, you know, the screen might go a little bit glitchy and all that. But rather than sort of making it more interesting, I thought it just made it more difficult, to the point where I was like, nah, I'm not having the best of times with this. So, like, yeah, I know some people kind of have really enjoyed this game, but
yeah, and this is overwhelmingly positive on Steam.
It just, I mean,
I wonder if this because, like, there's such an appetite for, like, Undertale like game, you know, that anything which is like remotely similar in vibe is just gonna. Yeah.
And yeah, I appreciate it. It's kind of like, you know, if you're what people perceive to be the first, then anyone who does another game like you will be compared to what you did. And Undertale was huge. I mean, you know, it came to Game Pass last week and people were delighted because, you know, it's a game that a lot of people absolutely adore. But, like, even if you say, like, Undertale's combat, I think is terrific. Like, how that is forever changing. Like, it still has your same setup with the little box on the bottom and you're the little heart. But, like, the way the enemies are attacking you, it always feels very fresh. This didn't give me that same sensation. And it just, rather than challenging, it felt unfair a lot of the time. The music is okay. The music is all right. It is, you know, it kind of spans a lot of different genres and they do well with that. And I suppose the music is something they do have to get right in a game like this. I just, didn't really get on with it all that much, Everhood. But yeah, if you like the look of it, it's out now. I think it's about 15 quid or so on Steam, came out at the start of this month. But Matthew, a game I think that's a little bit newer that you've been playing. It came out only quite recently, didn't it? Adios.
This is by Mischief. I'd heard about this like a while back. It's a I thought it broken there for a second. It's got quite jarring scene transitions, so it may look like the footage has just gone black, but it's intentional. I'd heard about this. I saw someone talking about this on Twitter a few months ago. You basically play a guy who runs a pig farm where he disposes of bodies for the mafia. And the idea is it was pitched as like a narrative adventure about, you know, a day in the life of this character. Turns out it's like the day in which he's trying to get out of the job, basically. So this hitman's come to give him this meat, and you you do little tasks while talking to this guy who's like his mafia handler, and you're trying to kind of make the case why you want to stop being, you know, disposing of bodies for him. And it's purely it's like a little narrative adventure. It's quite like 30 Flights of Loving.
Okay, yeah.
Where it has these quite quick scene transitions and it's quite sort of cinematic, and you're just sort of moving between, you know, little moments in this. So it's a whole day, but kind of compressed into, I don't know, it took me about an hour to play through the whole thing. So it's quite short. I'm going to say I thought this was like more interesting than good. I was a little disappointed by it because on paper, like the Hitman kind of adjacent thing feels quite thrillery and tropey. I'm kind of into that. it's actually like, it's really low key. Like it's mainly you're walking around your farm with this bloke. You go to like, you have maybe like 10 or so tasks you need to do in the day. And each one is like a little self-contained scene. And there's always something to do in the scene, like a little mini game or something to interact with, like this machine. But there's no real, like, there's not much connection between that and basically the conversation between you and this kind of mafia guy. And they're really long. Like, they're quite well written and the voice acting's nice, but it's basically like you go into a scene and then you just talk back and forth for like 7 minutes while you try and like occupy yourself. Like here, just like what? Like just pressing buttons on this machine?
Oh, so like, in what we're seeing here, is the character he's still just talking to you, but you're
they're just talking. So it's like, it's almost like a radio drama playing over the top of like mini games, which don't really have any impact on. Or, you know, the conversations aren't about, you know, anything particular. They're sort of filling in, and they were just all a bit too long. Like I'd get bored of the interactive element in the scene way before the conversation was over. You know, you go in and, you know, this is probably my favorite bit of the game. And I've like cut through it quite quickly just so I don't spoil all the different mini games. But like you play a game of throwing these horseshoes. But even that, like, it's not like, you know, it doesn't feel like amazingly kind of reactive to what you're doing. You know, it's just like a scene that would have played out regardless of what happens.
Because 30 Flights of Loving worked because it was so short, I think. Well,
it's so short and like, you know, almost largely like wordless as well. It was just super fast, kind of conveyed what it was trying to do. You know, this was like, you know, it's almost like an hour of like a prestige drama, but it's just very, very slow. And I found like eventually in every scene, I'd just stop moving. I'd just sit there, put the control, you know, not touch the mouse and keyboard and just listen to them talk and be like, this honestly would have been, I could have just listened to this as a radio play and it would have probably been better. Like for me, I just didn't think there was enough, enough connective tissue between the game and the thing. You know, I guess it's sort of like, you know, those scenes in like Naughty Dog games where in like Uncharted or more in The Last of Us, where they have the kind of getting to know you drama scene where two characters are like, you know, exploring a thing and interacting with props and they're talking and you learn about them as they talk. But you also like talk about what you're doing. Like there's a lot of like, you pick up a thing and there's jokes and it's incredibly tightly scriptive and reactive to what's going on. You know, really, I mean, I know it's unfair to compare like, you know, hundreds of developers and a mega budget to a very small indie game. But I felt here like there was almost no tissue. I found myself just occupying the time, trying to kill time with interactions, which just feels totally wrong. It's a shame because, like I say, it is really well written. Like the characters are well observed, like particularly the farmer. Like you learn about his sort of life and his vibe, and there's kind of an interest. You know, the sort of the relationship kind of does sort of emerge from the conversations with this guy about, you know, where you both stand on things. But it went a little too far, indulged its writing too much, and I found it quite boring. It's also like 14 quid for like an hour of listening to just two guys talking and you occasionally pressing E on an apple. I'm
not one for, you know, for saying that like short games can't be 14 or 15 quid. But if, like, as you're describing, you know, a lot of it is listening to the two lads talking, that talking needs to be fucking good. But
then I look on Steam and it's all super positive, the reviews. So maybe I'm completely wrong on this, but I found it just there's not enough to it. I didn't really, you know, I could sort of see what it's going for, but the kind of melancholic vibe kind of butts up against my desire for like some momentum or some action, and like it undermines the drama, if anything, because they're having these heartfelt conversations, but technically the farmer's throwing cans of drink around a room because he's got nothing else to do. That's just dumb. You know, so yeah. Adios.
Ooh, very good. Well, I have been butting up against cop cars, Matthew, and bicycles and ice cream vans because I've been behind the wheel of a car, a remote-controlled car in Blind Drive. This came out, I think, kind of like middle of March-ish. I love games that do this. So this is a game that's just like all about sound. It is an audio-based black comedy, I suppose, ish. And it's a 2-button game. So like the footage, again, if you're watching this, it's not going to be terribly exciting, but it's going to illustrate what the game is.
I played this at Rest a few years ago.
Oh, did you? Okay. So yeah, there are a bunch of white lines in the middle of the screen. Cars are coming against you, and you must avoid those cars by either going to the left or to the right. And using headphones, you're able to hear what direction the cars are coming. And then, so that's kind of like the crux of it. But like, as you play through the game, as I mentioned, like there are bicycles that are introduced that you have to hit to get an extra life, or what else? So like, the radio will turn on, it'll be booming volume, or there'll be some sort of like a fly or whatever will fly around your head, so you'll hear their buzzing in your ears. The windows will be rolled up, making it more difficult. The ways in which this game takes its premise of moving from left to right and plays with it by introducing new and different elements, I thought was really clever. I quite enjoyed this game. Again, another very short one, probably about an hour and a half, maybe ish in total. Cost you about, I think, like £8, give or take. But just games that sort of play. There was another one a couple of years ago that won't come to my head now. But games that sort of play with sound, and you like specifically having to wear headphones to kind of echolocation type of things. I really enjoy. You played this a couple of years ago at Res, you said?
Yeah, just like a little demo. But I remember thinking, oh, this is cool. The audio element of it. It's fun.
It is fun. The story is quite good as well. Like, it kind of goes in some directions that maybe you don't think it will go. It's described as a black comedy. It's fine. It's all right. In terms of, like, again, I don't like Everhood. I don't think you'll be pissing yourself playing this, but I don't know. Maybe you will. I don't know you. I don't know what you laugh at. But yeah, it's Blind Drive. It genuinely, I found it to be quite a good hour and a half's worth of entertainment. I enjoyed it. So those are the games that we've been playing over the last week. So now it's time to test the knowledge of one another via a little thing that we like to call Mystery Steam Reviews.
It's time for Mystery Steam Reviews. Yeah.
Yes, Mystery Steam Reviews.
At last.
Is the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot where I, Colin Mahern, and he, Matthew Castle, test the knowledge of one another via Steam reviews that are a mystery. And the rules are as follows. We both bring 3 Steam reviews to the MSR arena, but we omit the name of the game associated with each review. Our opponent must correctly guess the game attached to each review. 1 correct answer equals 1 point. While both of us have 90 seconds on each Mystery Steam review, we both also have help in the form of 3 lifelines. These lifelines can be used at any stage during battle and also pause the 90-second timer. Each lifeline, however, can only be used once, and they are as follows. Question, where the hot seat haver gets to ask a yes or no question. Second opinion, where a second review is given to the warm chair sitter. And genre, where the genre of the game is revealed to the one with the warm arse. So, this week, Matthew, it's going to be a toughie, and I'm not expecting many scores on the board, but we'll see. We'll see.
It was tough last week. I got nothing last week.
I mean, look, that was in the past, Matthew. Let's leave the past in the past. Let's focus on this week. But
You'd like that, wouldn't you?
Oh, I mean, listen, if you want to talk about your mistakes about Portal, yeah, exactly. But anyway, yeah, I'm already tired of that conversation, and we haven't even had it. But yeah, this week the theme is games that have got a 60 or lower score on Metacritic. It's as simple as that. Basically, your classic 3-star or lower video games. We don't care about scores on Rock Paper Shotgun except for the next 20 minutes or so. This is the only time we care.
Well, I care about the score in Mystery Steam reviews every week, which is why last week I was so upset.
Well, let's see if you can hold it. Keep it together this week, Matthew.
I always keep it together.
Let's have your very first Mystery Steam review. As a fan of the older games, I was satisfied with this one. Protagonist's name was awesome because of violence, nudity, and one-liners. That's it. That's why I enjoyed this game. It really took me back. And that's from The Bearded Dragon. It's recommended 4.7 hours on record, 2.4 hours at time of review. Matthew, your time starts now.
So, game which has come back, I mean, that instantly jumps out is Duke Nukem, because of the one-liners. So this would be Duke Nukem Forever, which is a notoriously shit game. I haven't played it, but I remember people saying it had lots of nudity in it, and I can understand, like, they used to have the pole dancers, whatever, and the strippers in the original game, so maybe it's that. I mean, that is a bad game. That's a low score. Feels like it could be that. You know what? Listen, I'm just gonna be bold. I'm gonna be brave. I'm gonna say Duke Nukem Forever.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
I like that. Be positive this week, Matthew. You're a very negative force in general, but this week I want you to be positive.
Person.
So, very early on, recognize the one-liners, the nudity, all that. You said this is my favorite video game character of all time, Duke Nukem.
I didn't say that. I didn't say it's my
and
favorite
you've ended
character.
up on Duke Nukem Forever.
It's not my favorite game character.
Which, to be fair, was fairly maligned at the time. And was a sequel to, all those Duke Nukem 3D, Land of the Babes was another one. Loads of Duke Nukems. But is Duke Nukem Forever the correct answer? Matthew Castle, the correct answer is Duke Nukem Forever.
Back in it, baby.
Start you off easy. I said I'd ease you into it. Get you back on the board with a nice little Mystery Steam review there.
The condescending route.
Matthew Castle, could I have my first Mystery Steam review, please?
Terrible graphics, terrible port, terrible script, terrible voice acting, terrible gameplay. One of the best video games ever made, says Echinoderm. Recommends it with 29.3 hours on record. But what is it?
Time starts now. Bad review, terrible graphics. So everything is bad, but it's one of the best video games ever made. I mean, that's a bad review. One of the best. So it's all terrible, but it's one of the best video games ever made.
It's not a bad review.
I'd be interested to hear what this is because, do you know what? 54 seconds. Pausing it. Matthew, could I have my second opinion, please? Because there's no way I could get it from just that review.
Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Unlike, you know what? It was so funny. After last week's episode, I was in quite a bad mood. So I went into town and I went into my favourite shop. It's that shop which is just like Portal. Do you remember that shop? What's the shop on the high street that's just like Portal?
Oh, the Apple Store, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Apple Store. Yeah, I went into the Apple Store. Just like Portal, I thought. Here's your clue. Drive around learning 80s movie trivia. 10 out of 10.
Restarting the timer now. Drive around learning 80s movie trivia. Terrible graphics, terrible port. Drive around learning 80s movie trivia. Oh, it's obviously not Vice City, and I can't get Vice City out of my head. 80s movie trivia. Or, do you know what? There was that thing. What was the name of it? Like, where they had the movie characters, Broforce, but I think that was. I think I might just say Retro City Rampage. Because that may be. I don't think that was a port. Broforce!
Is that your final answer?
Oh. I think that was actually scored more highly, but it has to be, Chris.
So, you're looking for a game with terrible graphics, it's a terrible port, it's got a terrible script, terrible voice acting, and terrible gameplay, but it's absolutely amazing.
Broforce doesn't have voice acting either.
It's going to be sounds like a real cult hit. Maybe one that critics underestimated, but has got a big following, in which you drive around learning 80s movie trivia. It is, of course,
Deadly Premonition.
Deadly Premonition! I think that's an okay review.
Okay. Matthew, would you like your second Mystery Steam review?
Fucker. It captures the energy around that game, which is like, it's totally shit, but, you know, people absolutely love it. I was thinking, if you thought, like, what's a shit game that people love, you'd probably come up with it. Like, you got Deadly Premonition when I was saying it.
Well, when you added more context about the critics. But Matthew, I genuinely don't have a problem. Life is too short. I don't have a problem with it. Matthew, why are you shaking your head? I'm saying I don't have a problem.
Because I want to enjoy this moment, but I can't because you're like.
I'm not like anything. Congratulations. I hope you go on to win this episode of Mystery Steam Reviews. Matthew, here is your second Mystery Steam review.
If people in the comments say I'm salty, I'm not salty. You are the salty one. I'm just saying you're the salty one.
I'm completely fine. I'm trying to move on with the show. Matthew, here's your second Mystery Steam review. Did you know you can pour alcohol on a gun to make it shoot fire bullets? I didn't know that until I played this game. It's recommended 13 hours on record from Beast Mode. Your time, Matthew, starts now.
Oh my god. It sounds like it's got a terrible crafting system. First person shooter. Some kind of shooter. Can I get the second opinion?
You can pause the timer at 1:16. As Matthew uses his second opinion. So the second opinion of this video game is... Right. To soak all this in, because there's a couple of points, right?
Okay.
This game was ambitious, trying to be the best game in every aspect, but ended up B-class survival horror. First-person camera works okay, sound, world, and music is good, graphics are okay, and then they have negatives. Controls are horrible, and inventory is annoying to use. Horrible third-person camera movement. Combat is janky. And then last point from this person, this game feels like Alan Wake vibe mixed with Resident Evil 6 plus Evil Within. And your timer restarts now.
I think I know what this is. This is the Alone in the Dark reboot. Because it had an inventory system where you had to open your coat and you had to look down in all your pockets. It was a real night. Like, on paper, you're like, oh, that's cool. It's really organic. But actually, it means you spend a lot of the game looking at the inside of your coat, which is a terrible sales pitch. And you could combine things. You could, like, make Molotov cocktails. So, in theory, you could put booze in a gun. I think it was just called Alone in the Dark, rather than, like, Alone in the Dark, you know, Illumination or something. I'm going to say Alone in the Dark.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah, that's my final answer.
I enjoy when you start, Matthew, and you kind of end up being Chris.
That is my final answer.
So, after getting the review, you were thinking first-person shooter, perhaps. But then, that second opinion opened up the avenue of survival horror, and you said, this one is Alone in the Dark. The reboot that they did, which, yeah, it wasn't received all that well. But is it the correct answer, Matthew? The correct answer is Alone in the Dark. Well done. Well done. I was thinking that, see, look, now you're a happy boy, and a happy boy makes me a happy boy.
Good reviews. Good reviews. Very true to those games.
Oh, Matthew, could I have my second Mystery Steam review, please?
Pros, you can make an original character. Cons, your original character can't get the main character. Pregananganannan. Habran recommends this with 33.8 hours on record, 21.6 at the time of review.
Time starts now. So you can make a character, and your character can't get the main character. Preganananant. So you make a character, but the character isn't the protagonist. Or it says, like, the main protagonist. You can't get the main protagonist pregnant.
Character whose name is on this game.
Okay. Can't... Alright, so it has to be an RPG. Why did you shake your head?
Oh, it's tough. Think Deviants.
Matthew Castle. This is...
It's quite hard, this one.
Yeah, it would be an RPG with, like, you know, romance options.
I kind of feel bad about this one. The second I reread it, I was like,
I genuinely...
Pause the clock. Listen.
Hold on. This is unprecedented. We're pausing the clock at 3 seconds.
I feel bad about this. I feel a little bit bad about this one, because when I read it, I was like, ha ha ha. But then, now you've said it, it sounds a bit obscure. I'm going to give you a second opinion.
Free of charge?
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to give you free of charge, because I do feel bad about this one.
That's very nice.
And you only got 3 seconds, but you got, let's say, like, I'll give you 30 seconds to ponder this one.
All right.
So the second opinion is hallway simulator with an asthmatic hedgehog.
Hallway Sonic Forces. You could create a character in Sonic Forces. I'm going to say Sonic Forces. Yeah, why not?
Is that your final answer?
That is my final answer.
So, in Sonic Forces, you can make an original character. Your original character can't get Sonic pregnant, which is something a deviant would be upset about. But is this a game played by and liked by deviants? It is! It's Sonic Forces!
That was very big of you, Matthew. I appreciate...
I just felt like when I saw that, I was like, oh, of course perverted Sonic fans would think like that. But then when you said it, I was like, actually, that's quite a big leap from those words to that.
I appreciate that.
That's why I felt bad. That's why I felt bad about it.
We're making amends. This is the Mystery Steam reviews I enjoy. I don't like all the tetchy nastiness.
I also just wanted to make it clear, like, I thought this was a good place to just say that, you know, just make it clear that people who like Sonic are, you know.
Matthew, would you like your third and final Mystery Steam review?
There are a surprising number of reviews for Sonic Forces. It must be a meme. Because they're all like, why can't I make Sonic pregnant? Why can't I make Sonic pregnant?
Oh, that's a thing. Then I
typed Sonic pregnant into Google.
Never type Sonic pregnant into Google.
Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that.
Matthew, here's your third and final Mystery Steam review. This is a fun game and collectathon. Great platforming, but mediocre combat. that is saved by your adorable robot friends. The story is laughable, and I think they were setting this up for a sequel. I had no interest in doing most of the optional dungeons because at 14 hours, the game felt like a good length. And that's from Master Box and Bilko. It is recommended 14.6 hours on record. Matthew, your time starts now.
Jesus Christ. Platforming, but terrible combat, and you've got robot friends. So it's going to be a bad 3D character. Can I get the genre?
Oh, you can do. Going to pause the timer at 118. You actually have 2 lifelines. So the genre of this is an action, adventure, and platform video game.
Okay.
Would you like to use your question, or? Is
this a Sonic game?
Is that your question?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
It is not a Sonic video
There are a lot
game.
of Sonic games in that sub 60 category.
So restarting the timer now.
So, platforming. You've got robots. You've got little robot friends. Dungeons as well. That's a weird word for it. It's a game where you can throw you can have robots. Ratchet and Clank, that's not on PC. Also probably scores above 60 because people have no taste.
Who's that a burn on?
Ratchet and Clank fans, obviously. I keep thinking things like Lemmings and things like that, but it's not that. But you've got like little robot friend. You've got like people who do stuff for you. It's a collectathon. Ukulele, that didn't score that low though. Might have, did it? I don't know. I thought that was more in the 70s. It's not this, but ukulele. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think you've got robot friends in that game, and it hasn't got optional dungeons. That's a terrible guess.
You asked if this was a Sonic game. No, the genre sadly didn't add much to the original review. But kind of really tried to zone in on that robot friends, which was obviously the killer kind of part of that review. And you've ended up on ukulele, recognizing or asking the question at least, do you have robot friends in ukulele?
Don't, you're a chameleon and a bat.
You do befriend a snake.
And Buzzo the robot.
Matthew, the correct answer is... Recore. Because I was like, oh, Recore is that a bit... Does everyone remember Recore? So I typed into Google Matthew Castle Recore and saw that at some point you had actually... You and Recore, maybe you didn't review it, I don't know, but like your paths had crossed, so I was like, okay.
That's very decent of you. I saw Recore when I was doing the list, and I thought, Recore? I thought, nah, no one's played Recore except me. Of course, you've got robot mates and dungeons. Yeah, you're right.
Matthew, could I have...
Recore was such ass. The worst thing about Recore, it was made by a studio called Armature, who are basically the kind of core creative team at Retro, who made Metroid Prime.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So it should have been amazing, because it had like Metroid Prime talent on it, but... Classic, 6 out of 10. It's worth it only when on sale, unless you're a hardcore, aspiring revolutionary who really wants to be part of a political/militant resistance movement but have too many responsibilities in real life. Then I'd recommend it, says Monica. Recommends it, 28.3 hours on record, 13.6 at the time of review.
Okay, time starts now. It's a hardcore aspiring revolutionary political movement. So this, and I know wrongly, is making me think of like no Civ game has gotten like 60 or lower. Oh man. Do you know what, actually? I'm going to pause the timer at 102 and I'm going to use a genre to see if this sheds any light on it. And kind of puts me down the right path. Because I'm not sure. Oh, The Division 2? The Division maybe?
This is described as a first-person shooter video game.
Oh, okay. Gonna restart the timer now because I don't really have a question. A first-person shooter video game. I'd recommend this if it's on sale, unless you're political. Wolfenstein would be higher. I'm just trying to think of like political Call of Duty? One of the CODs? Like a Ghosts? Right. When I can't think of a question, I come up with this one. So I'm going to pause the timer at 24 seconds. Matthew, was this game released in the last 5 years? Let's say.
I'm gonna be nice. It was released in May 2016.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if May 2016 helps me. 2016. Oh, I'm just trying to think. Wolfenstein, Far Cry, Call of Duty, Battlefield, political. Call of Duty Ghosts, Call of Duty Ghosts.
Call of Duty Ghosts.
Just because
Is
it's...
that your...
That is my final answer, Chris, yeah. And it's like...
Is that your final answer?
Yes. Because it is one of the... Sure, May. Call of Duty comes out in November. Fuck it. Put a bullet in me, Chris.
Call of Duty Ghosts got a Metacritic score of 73%.
Oh, did it? That seems wrong.
The game that appeals to a hardcore, inspiring revolutionary is... Homefront: The Revolution.
Yeah.
It's a very, very forgettable shooter. I would say it has some redeeming qualities, but...
Yeah, no, that's very fair. I played the first... Was Homefront: The Revolution the first Homefront or the sequel?
No, Homefront: Revolution was the one which is a bit like Far Cry. It was in Philadelphia with the Korean occupation.
Yeah. All right, well, I think this Mystery Steam Reviews went off with fewer hitches. A bit of tetchiness at the start, but I think we ironed those out. We earned it out.
Oh, yeah. I disagree. It's just character. It's characterful banter between friends.
So that is Mystery Steam Reviews for this week. So now let's get on to your correspondence and indeed your burning questions. So, Burning Questions is the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot where we indeed take your correspondence, your emails, your questions, your whatever else, and we read them out on the show. You can get in touch with us at any stage during the week. Weekspot at rockpapershotgun.com. And we have a few bits and pieces here. Where are they? They're here. Obviously, starting off with Mog, who... when we do the premiere thing on the YouTube version, is always very nice, and he gives us £10 sterling. It's very nice, you Mog. You're a good...
Which we spend on Haribo.
Yes, lovely Haribo. Super Mix. The superior Haribo above all. Because you get it best of both worlds, like Miley Cyrus. But Mog says, do you prefer tea or coffee? And what are your favourite brands? Great show as always. Thank you very much, Mog. Matthew, are you're one of those weirdos that doesn't like hot drinks? Is that right?
Yeah, I don't drink hot drinks because my body's hot enough as it is.
That's very.
All I ever want to do is cool down my body.
I find it very hard to trust people who don't drink hot beverages because it feels very odd to like
Why?
what do you have in the morning when you wake up with your cereal or your toast or your porridge or your like what is the drink that you have?
Well, I'm not a big breakfast person, but if I do have breakfast, it'll be a cereal which has got milk in it, which is a drink. Cereal is a drink.
I mean, you could say gravy is a drink then with your dinner. Like, you know.
Yes, that is true. People are like, would you like a drink with your roast dinner? And I'm like, don't worry, I've got gravy on it. That's enough moisture for me. I'm a fiend for fizzy drinks. I won't drink the first thing in the morning because, that's obviously terrible. But like Pepsi Max throughout the day, bit of water, maybe a bit of milk at bedtime.
Very nice.
All cold drinks.
I am a hot drinker. I enjoy both coffee and tea, but tea is number one. Tea is my favorite drink in the world.
And what brand?
Brand here would be Yorkshire tea for a multitude of reasons. One, because I think it's nicer than PG Tips. It's stronger. And also I'm able to buy because I've never counted because I'm sure it would be frightening in some ways. People have worse vices, but like I probably drink somewhere between 12 and 15 cups of tea a day ish, like of decent sized cups. So there needs to be a lot of tea bags in the house. So on Amazon you can buy these huge bags of like 1,500 tea bags or something like that. Get them in. That's how I basically go hard or go home if you're drinking tea. That's what
nice.
I say. Ryan in Tennessee got in touch. Ryan said, you guys don't talk about PC hardware on the show. Do you not have as much of a personal interest in PC hardware? Also curious, what are your personal rigs / specs? And if you plan on upgrading when GPUs become more available? Ryan, first of all, Ryan in Tennessee, thank you very much for your question. Secondly, Ryan in Tennessee, Tech Corner. We're always on about tech and hardware every week. But I think we've probably made it clear before that, myself and Matthew don't really have much of an interest in PC hardware. But I've also spoken on the show before about trying to buy a new graphics card. At least, I think it's twice now I've tried to buy a new graphics card and haven't been able to. So I would like a better PC. But like the PC I have at the minute, it does the job. I have a 1080 and an i7 8700K, I think is how you're meant to say it. So like not an absolute winner of a PC, but it does the job, and it runs most things on at least high. But yes, Matthew, you know, hardware.
Yeah, hardware. Well, I'm married to Catherine, who is the hardware editor of Rock Paper Shotgun. So obviously there's a lot of hardware chat in our house. I don't understand any of it. I come from a console background. The reason I like consoles growing up is because I don't know anything about hardware. I cannot build a PC. I cannot fix my PC. But luckily, Catherine is very good at that. So she does all that. My PC has a RTX 2060 Super, which is very solid, and does everything I need it to do. What is my thing? I've only got my processor's nothing to write home about. It's only like an i5 A2. My PC is a bit of a Frankenstein's monster of like random bits that Catherine has lying around, because as hardware editor, she's obviously building PCs and rigs, and sometimes she takes stuff out of my PC to put in the review PC and whatnot. So what I'm playing on changes quite regularly, but everything does fine. I've only got a 1440p screen, so I'm just not interested in a lot of that stuff. You know, I just want it to work. Like my eyes aren't that good, so like some of the cutting edge stuff is completely lost on me. I'm perfectly fine with 60 frames. I'm not a snob about these things.
Phil got in touch.
Not saying that Ryan is a snob about these things, but
Phil
thanks for your question, Ryan.
Phil got in touch and said, first, happy St. Patrick's Day for last Wednesday. Thank you very much, Phil.
I don't celebrate it.
Who Americans do. Irish people don't celebrate it either. They get a day off work.
Do you not celebrate it?
We hold. All right, we'll talk about St. Patrick's Day first. You get a day off work. It's good, you know, and like it's good. It's good.
You don't get a day off work here in the.
No, of course. I can't go, Graham, it's St. Patrick's Day today. I'm not working, okay?
Well, I don't know. Like, might be the law. Who knows what arcane bullshit is written into employment law? You get a day off at home. And like St. Patrick's Day is for families with kids to go to a parade. But even at that, like the parades in America absolutely killed the parades in Ireland. And that's because they're probably more Irish, really.
The Americans, and
they love it. They love the homeland more.
They do. And the other part of it is, or the other people that St. Patrick's Day is for like people between the ages of 18. Well, not 18. It's 16, really, because who are we trying to fool? So, like, be like 15, 16 up to like 24. Who are just basically want to get pissed. But of course, if you are between the ages, if you are below 18 and living in Ireland or the UK, you shouldn't be drinking. If you're in America, below 21, because that's how they do it, I think. But yeah, aside from...
if we find out you are, we will knock you into the cops, because that is what I am like.
But Phil does go on to say, question for the show.
Okay.
Are there any games sequels that either of you have eagerly anticipated, and in preparation for that sequel, you revisit or play the title beforehand, only to find that your appetite is fully sated and in the end not play the sequel you had originally anticipated and planned to play? An example, I was really looking forward to Persona 5 Strikers, but decided to play through Royal first. And now after 150 hours of Royal, I have reached my full of Persona for a good while to come. Cheers and keep up the good work. It's been a long COVID year. Your banter on the show has kept me sane. Sloan Phil. Thank you very much,
Sloan Guffaw.
So Matthew, have you ever...
Is that what you say?
Played... It's close enough. Have you ever... in anticipation of a new game coming out, said, I'll go back and have a little refresher and play the old game. Is that something you do, first of all?
Not often. I played through... The last time I remember going out my way to do this was replaying the first two Metro games just before Exodus, which actually probably helped it, because like you see the leap, you know, visually and everything is a bit more obvious, because, you know, generally speaking, I remember things as much better than they were.
I think, yeah.
So if anything, playing things just before will often like shine the newer thing in a better light, unless it like completely shits the bed, of course. But generally, like roughly speaking, I would imagine I'd go to things. I mean, the particular case here is a bit of an extreme one, because I think if you play 150 hours of anything, you know, to then go in will probably, you know, sap your will to live
too
a bit.
much.
Also, Strikers is a very different game to Royal.
Yeah, it is. Like you, it's not really something I do, to be honest, because most games are too long. So I know that like the next game I'm going to be playing is probably long, so I don't really need to play the old ones. I can just, if I need a refresher, I'll just find somebody who's done an article or a video or whatever of like, you know, story recap, and you're like, oh yeah, that happened. I mean, I feel like before Metal Gear Solid 5 came out, way back when, I think I did go through, if not all four of them, or sorry, no, it was Metal Gear Solid 4 I think I did this for, not Metal Gear Solid 5. And I played 1 to 3 beforehand. But like, yeah, nowadays I don't really. It's not really something I do. I'd love to have the time to, but
yeah. I've been playing. I'm trying to play through the Yakuza series now. They've all been added to Game Pass because I've played sort of bits of them here and there. But I'm definitely like I've played several in the past, but the one I've played recently was Kiwami 1. And I need a break after that. I can't go straight into Kiwami 2 because
they're meaty games.
They're meaty and they're amazing, but they are one note. And I know that is the one note across all of them. There's just so much you can do. I wish they'd. That little girl is like quite an important character in Yakuza, isn't she?
Yeah. And Johnny,
that's what I would have edited out of it, Kiwami.
Johnny got in touch. Johnny said, as I get older and my time on this planet diminishes, my tolerance for games wasting my time becomes lower and lower. What aspect of clunky game design do you find yourself raging at as you fruitlessly try to fill your remaining hours with purposeful endeavours? For me, the two serious crimes are checkpoints before a cutscene and scrolling text boxes that I can't hammer a button to fill in quickly. Both make me angrier than Matthew when he loses a light-hearted parlour game. Johnny.
Well, you've never seen that.
Thank you very much, Johnny.
It's not something I've ever done on this stream.
Let's say, because, because I feel like before we discuss this, we don't make games. Other game developers could make, regardless of if it has clunky game design, it would be better than the game that we would make. Probably. Because where do you, so clunky game design versus bad game design, Matthew? Well, I suppose what's your interpretation of this question? What are aspects of clunky game design that where you find yourself raging?
Bad map screens. It really bugs me when you can only highlight one side quest on a map in an RPG in this day and age. I think that's obscene. Like the way I play RPGs is I like to look at the map and where it's got grayed out markers of inactive quests, and you're you plot an optimal route so you can do as much side quest activity in one go. But if you can't do that without going in and changing side quest, that absolutely kills me. I mean, to tell you the truth, they've really games are on a that kind of frustrating level. They're so much better than they used to be. A lot of the leaps and bounds, well, I guess they're sort of subtle leaps and bounds have been made over the last 10 years. AAA game development is just so designed for ease and accessibility and, not having those little things that you get snagged on. I don't notice them as much anymore, but that might be something how you manage that. I mean, maybe individual management of fast travel. If you've got bad fast travel points, if they're too limited and they take you to a certain place and then you have to, you end up doing certain routes over and over again, or having to go through certain loading screens. If you're doing it repeatedly, I can't think of a good example of this, but there's definitely games where you're the fast loading point doesn't seem to, the fast travel point hasn't been placed with any real sort of sense.
One that I really don't like is when out of nowhere a video game will introduce, and I love stealth games, but when games that aren't stealth based introduce stealth sequences and insta fail states as well. So as soon as you're seeing you fail that sequence. Oh, horrible. Awful. Really don't like that.
Often I find the stealth though is gentle enough,
I think it depends on the game. game.
Yeah, some do get it. You're right. When that goes horribly wrong, it gets really wrong. In stealth games, something I really hate is when the alert phase cooldown's too long and you're sitting in a bush waiting for everyone to go back. Which that's more of an older thing. Older Metal Gears or whatever. People will be searching for you for 2 minutes and you're like, well, I've proven that I can hide from you. You're just wasting my time now. If it's going to be long, you've got to have exciting AI that really kind of like stalks you and tracks you down, but they never do. You know, it's like Assassin's Creed waiting in a bush for everyone to go back so you can have another go. That's quite tedious.
I mean, kind of like, some like difficulty spikes are frustrating.
Yeah.
One where NPCs, these usually kind of like in the in-between bits of games, where NPCs are walking ahead of you, you have to follow them, and they're like they're walking incredibly slowly, and your walking and movement state hasn't been changed to reflect their walking state. So when you push up on the analog stick or press the W key, you just leg it past them, and then you have to stop and kind of wait for them, and then you have to and then you do it again. You're trying to, especially with if it's on the W key, it's obviously far more annoying than on the analog stick, which you can, you can kind of control the speed a little bit. But yeah, that's more, because I'm trying to think of like, he said clunky rather than bad. I'm trying to think of like, trying to like make that differentiation in my head. But yeah, any more, Matthew?
Again, I don't know if it's necessarily a clunky thing, but like, if you're going to have a skip cutscene button, which you should have, I also want it to have a warning phase where you have confirm, because whenever I get to the first cutscene in any game, I am like compelled to press every single button on the pad, almost as like a Russian roulette, to see if I don't want to skip it, I want to watch it, but I'm interested to know, like, for future reference, if any of the buttons are going to skip. But I want it to, like, if I hit B and then it's like, are you sure you want to skip the cutscene? That's great. That's what I want. I don't want to actually skip it, but that might just be me being a weirdo.
You know, I the first cutscene, I'll press start to see if, or escape or whatever, to see if I can first pause it, and just kind of to figure that out. We'll get a base.
It should say, like, the first thing any game should say. You know, it always shows you
can pause cutscenes.
Don't. It always says, like, don't restart when you see this because it's saving. And then the next screen should be, in this game, pressing B skips the cutscenes.
Yep.
I know. Now I know.
There's one for you, game developers. So, yeah, those are your burning questions. Thank you very much, as always. If you want to send any in to us, email us, weekspot@rockpapershotgun.com. Thank you very much, as always, for watching or listening to this episode of the PC Gaming Weekspot. If you want more of us, there are ways for you to get more, kind of. You can follow us on social media. I am at Colum_Ahern. Matthew is at Mr. Basil_Pesto. If you want to talk to some like-minded people, head over to Discord, discord.gg/rockpapershotgun. Also, if you want to watch the video version of this, go to youtube.com/rockpapershot, where you can like, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell and all that YouTube thing. But if you want the audio version, subscribe to the PC Gaming Weekspot via all your podcatching apps like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Pocket Casts, etc. But for all of your PC gaming needs, head over to rockpapershotgun.com. Another week spot down, Matthew. In the can next week, we should have some exciting things to talk about. So,
really?
We'll see. Well,
I haven't got anything lined up.
I feel like if I say that, I'll will something into existence.
Oh, all right. Yeah,
so,
I was planning
crossed.
for it to be much like this week's episode. Just me, probably be a bit salty in Mystery Steam reviews.
No, I prefer the less. There's a right level of salt. I think you nailed that this week.
I will say, and I'm not kicking about this. I was in the comments last week. I was amazed by how many people were like, "Oh, I got that Portal one absolutely fine." I mean, kudos to you, because I genuinely that wasn't like playing up to the camera. I genuinely couldn't work that out at all. And everyone was like, I've had an abnormal number of messages and whatnot, people saying, "Oh yeah, that was easy." I'm like, I just cannot see it. That wasn't salt. That was genuine distress.
That was genuine anger. But now it is time to for my least favorite part of the show. Yes, keep getting lower, keep getting lower. Now it's time to bid the listener, the viewer, the consumer adieu. So say goodbye, Matthew Castle.
I think I've broken my chair. Bye.
And say goodbye, Colin Mahern, Sloan Gafford.